Songwriter Soup.
I always am a fan of when it comes to those advances, take things that you know that you can make back, because you only get that next advance anyway if you're relevant enough to receive it, which is why I always feel like the pipeline is like, okay, advances. Most of the time your life will be built off of advances as a creative.
Healthy recipes for not losing your mind and your money in the songwriter business.
Whether you're Drake or whether you're whatever, it's just the advances get bigger, but they're still loans.
They're loans.
Yes.
And you still have to be relevant enough by the time you spend that money to get another one.
Hello, everyone. Kevin.
Hi!
Hi,
everybody.
Kevin.
Welcome to Songwriter Soup. And I didn't do anything funny this time because I'm serious about this. And this is
important stuff.
This is important stuff. We're very professional. None of this is just strapped together with, Elmer's glue and
Paper mache.
Paper mache.
Yeah.
Don't forget the paper mache analogy.
I'm going to throw it back to you to introduce our guest.
Hey, I'm Laura. What's up? We have Tayla Parx here, which is crazy.
Hey, y'all.
I want to say, if it's just based on Favy songies, you might be my favorite guest of all time.
Look, you trying to make me blush.
Songs I just can't, you can't live without them. They're like staples in just walking around America/Earth. They're just kind of everywhere. Anyway, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited about this. It's very different. Usually we're, outside and burning some shit.
That's
and
right.
wait, am I allowed to cuss on here? Or
Yeah,
no?
you can cuss
yeah.
on
You're
here.
encouraged.
Okay. I'm like, okay.
We have to hit a certain quota of cursing or else our listeners
You have to
revolt.
contribute. So we're both contributing to the
Come
quota.
on.
Tayla and I are friends.
Yeah.
/ landowners
Together. Yes.
So we do burn a lot of brush. We pet a lot of goats.
Yep.
We watch pigs argue
Yes, over
over
the food.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So we have a very earthly relationship.
The greatest kind of collaboration ever. The greatest. We collaborated in all of the ways.
It's
in the
so
studio,
true.
outside
In
of the studio.
out of the studio. But you are definitely just one of my favorite people / one of the most interesting business owners I've ever known. One of the most interesting songwriters and collaborators. I have this thing where I think about, there's only a few where I'm in a room with someone who is as vivaciously contributive. Whoa, that feels like a phrase.
on.
I feel like when you're in the writing room, it's like there's no way you're not there. Does that make sense? Whereas some songwriters, it's like there's the soft pedaling, soft walking. It's like, I don't think I'm a very soft walker.
Right.
And
I'm
I don't think
very opinionated.
not just opinionated, but ideas and impressions, and just the songs get so tailored. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's only a few of you where I'm like, this is the level that I feel like when I wrote with you for the first time, I was like, this feels like what I imagine it is to write with me.
Yes.
Because I'm like, oh, I recognize something in you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is a wild style for sure.
Yeah,
Thomas
absolutely.
Daniel's the same way, where I'm like, just incredible, just constantly giving to the room.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
like, look, I'm just gonna say all of the ideas.
Yeah.
Something might come of it. Maybe you'll take this good idea to being great, and that's, I think, such an important part of collaboration, because it's nothing worse than when you feel like, oh, am I doing too much?
Yes.
Am I overstepping? Because you want to think about that. As a collaborator, you want to make sure everybody's getting their ideas out, and working with you, working with Thomas, working with a few of our friends actually that we happen to work with. I'm always feeling uplifted, so then we can make the gumbo that I like, which is literally just a combination of so many just influences from being a student. That's, I think, what we all are, honestly.
I think so too. I mean, I feel like that the best of us are that way, just forever students.
Yeah.
Just always learning. I'm so curious because you're so young. How old are you?
I'm 20. No, I'm fucking 32. I'm 32. I'm like, the two's somewhere in there.
It's getting it's wild. You're very young. Your achievements are astronomical. You're so young, and I've been imagining what it was like for you, like in your first writing room. And in my imagination, of course, you're exactly the same way you are now. I can't imagine that's actually true, but were you ever nervous? Like writing, like at what point were you like, oh, I got this. Like this is a jacket that fits. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Were you ever nervous? Like
I think that when I first started, like my first, like, oh my gosh, I'm in a very expensive studio with very successful people in here. It was when I was at Brandon's Way at Babyface's studio, and this was the first person to ever be like, publishing deal, this one, and I'm like, oh, what's that? And
you didn't know what that was at all.
I was literally still taking classes in college. I was like 17, 18 at the time, and I was living like an hour and a half outside of LA, so I was like driving my mom's Mazda, being like, okay, boom, like after I'm done with my classes, I'm going to the studio. And so I was there, and he does this thing where his arms are in his hands and he's in his shirt and he's like thinking or whatever. But I also realized that I was surrounded by only men. And so I think in the beginning, like when you're writing in your bedroom, and I was like, you know, kind of me and Tori Kelly and Leon Thomas, like learning our DAWs and stuff on YouTube and stuff is very different than when you're in the actual session.
Sure.
Surrounded by, I'm like, okay, I'm to them like a little kid and I'm a woman. And I actually did have that fear of being like, oof, do I speak up? He's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. And then I'm surrounded by, you know, other incredibly successful people. So in the beginning, when I was learning about the music and also the business of the music, I was much more like, okay. But then I got into that publishing deal, and I was in a crazy publishing deal. I had to write a lot of songs to get through that.
Would you mind telling us about the publishing
Man,
deal?
this MDRC, I was in an MDRC deal, and it was just like, it was like 7 songs or something like that. So 700% songs that I had to write, they had to come out on a major, like the indie stuff. It didn't work. It was a lot of songs. But basically, looking at this publishing deal for the first time and understanding, like there was people who were who knew that people were trying to get in contact with me. So somebody knew that Big John Platt was trying to get in touch with me. And he was like, oh, he wanted me to pay him out of that publishing deal and all this stuff for making the introduction to John. Like I started to really, truly learn that. So in the beginning, I was a lot more like, oof. But then when I had to realize how consistent and efficient and effective I had to be to get through that publishing deal, I think the action started to give the confidence of being like, shoot, I had to write, you know, however many songs, like 200 songs a year to even get to confident enough to know I can deliver when I step into the room. And I think that's the only thing that really changed was like, okay, if I don't speak up, then nobody's going to hear the ideas anyway. But then also that publishing deal and really understanding how consistent I would have to be to get through that or to even be, I think, successful in what we do. It changed things.
Was it the jail kind of deal, like the LA style, where it's like, unless you... Like the Nashville style deals are just different. You have like it's a time quota. It's not
no time. You could be in that thing for 14 years. You know what I'm saying? And that might be dramatic, but like it was definitely that type of thing where like, okay, well, I had, 5 of these songs come out and they did very well. They're streaming however many times, but were they on a major? Then they don't count.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Or how much of that did you write? And also in this age of like, there's 3 songwriters or there's 4 collaborators, let's say total, even if it's 2 songwriters, if you have to get 700% songs and I only am owning a maximum of 25% per song, how many songs is that?
Yes.
That have to be on a major, that have to be on a thing, that have to, it's
Do you
crazy.
think that style of deal is like going out of,
it's already kind of gone out. I don't even think, when I hear people, doing their deals, like I think it's very rare that, that somebody would be in I think I came in the industry at a lot of, new beginnings were happening and new normals were being created. And then eventually you start to see, just our generation of writer, like being a part of those new normals. And so I'm happy that those things are, they're the past now for the most part.
Pulled you, I mean, like to your point, it's like realizing that deal is as jail-like as it is probably makes you go, well, I got to fucking get serious. Like ASAP, I have to be, like you said it a minute ago, like I have to know what I'm doing in the room when I walk in the room. Like I feel like those deals maybe caused your generation to be better.
It
because you didn't
absolutely
have
did.
time. Now, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy because it really is too much pressure for the human heart. It's like too much. You're making art. You're supposed to be sort of relaxed, and then you feel this level of pressure. And LA does kind of come with this. It's in the air. There's like more pressure. It seems like, but I'm really glad that deal's
It's kind of
going out.
interesting. I was reflecting back on like a Nashville deal where it's kind of a term. You know, it's sort of a set amount of time, and that's a subtle pressure. Whereas this is more overt. It's like, hey, good luck.
Subtle pressure.
You're in the deal for as long as you are in the deal.
Yeah.
Over here, it's like you got 4 years. Sure hope you make, you better get some
Different
cuts
kind.
to make it.
Yeah.
A question though, subtle pressure, but with less money up front. Is that right? I
Less
mean,
money up front
front,
here.
yes.
The
Yeah,
Nashville deals
that's
are
right.
much more calm. They're much more like a salary. They're cute. They're
Yeah.
very cute. Whereas I feel like they pay you on potential. It's kind of like a book deal. I talked with Alex Hope about this actually, because Alex Hope's dad is a book writer, and the LA deals are a lot like publishing deals. When you
Books,
we'll pay you to write the book. They're paying you to like get hit song, like, and they're waiting for that hit. They're not thinking about you learning. They're not thinking about the progress of your career. They're waiting for that one thing to pop through.
And from a
Which
money
feels
perspective, was that difficult it's usually a lump sum. What I'm familiar with, lump sum, and then you sort of have to survive
On
over that time period. Was that a challenge at that time? Or
Absolutely. And I think that I came from, like, I've been working since I was like 9 years old. So I understood, like, oh, what it's like to get a big check, you know?
What you don't know, sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
Tayla was in Hairspray. So Tayla is also a child star, was in movies and had a whole life before this. So
Yeah.
I would love that to fill in some blanks there because that's very
Yeah.
interesting how one parlays into the other.
Absolutely. So I think that, yes, thinking about that stress, like I had already had the stress of like my family just picked up their entire life from Texas. And betted on me that maybe I would make it. And that's how we ended up moving to California.
Right.
And so I was always like, ooh, I want this to work, and surrounded by a bunch of other kids that were, knowing that this has got to work or your family just sacrificed everything. And mind you, they picked up not just my life, but my little sister's life,
Right.
their own lives, all these things. And then I was doing like this acting and stuff like that, because when you get this big lump sum, like check or whatever, which is honestly, when as a publisher, I'm like, take what you know that you can make back, because it's very stressful. If you don't take something that you know you can make back and you need to go back for another check, you can always go ask them for money early.
Yes.
But you have to show them I'm making it back. And so then you start to learn, like, oh, these are a lot of the differences that you can really work that, because I do see publishers as a bank, really. And the interest works a little bit different. And it is that, and then they'll come up with different opportunities. But like, I think what afforded me to be able to like just afford to be a songwriter was this job that I had with voiceover, and it was for this game, The Sims. And The Sims, I was like, I'm gonna make this like $1,200 to be there for like 6 hours or whatever it was at the time. And I was just flying back and forth from San Francisco, and so I was like, at least in the meantime, I can at least have something. And the voiceover like really introduced me to like, oh, I can be in the studio more. It was very different than trying to balance being an artist or songwriter and being on a set for 14 hours or whatever,
Right.
which feels, impossible to be able to really, truly, truly become great. But I always am a fan of, when it comes to those advances, take things that you know that you can make back, because, you only get that next advance anyway if you're relevant enough to receive it, which is why I always feel like the pipeline is like, okay, advances. Most of the time, your life will be built off of advances as a creative, whether you're Drake or whether you're whatever. It's just the advances get bigger, but they're still loans.
They're loans.
Yes.
And you still have to be relevant enough by the time you spend that money to get another one.
Yeah, this correlates
that is
so
so
well
good.
with the principles behind this podcast. Like trying to keep it lean
Yes.
is the whole like part. We realized, I think, when we first started talking about writing this book that turned into this podcast, the realization that the money is not getting bigger. We're not making more money. We might be, maybe it'll turn at some point, but right now our income streams are going down.
Yes.
If we could get people to spend less, I wonder if they'd be able to stay creative longer or enjoy their lives better. So like you're absolutely preaching to the choir. Like that's absolutely the premise behind a lot of what this podcast is money management, but then also making decisions like that.
Yeah.
Because I think people get really caught up in the flattery of an advance. Like, and it becomes kind of like a dick measuring contest too, of like, oh, what's yours? Oh, what was your and then all of a sudden you're measuring yourself on a loan. That's nasty. Like the idea of being like, oh, your loan was bigger than mine. Who cares?
Exactly.
That doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly. Now get you in the admin deal and you're making more than what you were doing in that's not a loan.
Exactly.
Now that's something
There
we're laying it out on the table.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
So
yeah.
It's really, really interesting, like when you make that decision to say, okay, I want to borrow less, but I'm also aware that you build generational wealth from borrowing money. And so there's such a fine line based off of your idea of happiness, what it costs like to you. Like in my case, it was like, it costed me a lot to be an artist, right? Versus like as a songwriter, like I would just be in the studio. Glam is not a thing. You're not paying somebody $500 to do your makeup or whatever. You're not like the running the business side and me deciding to say, I don't really do like commission. I don't do like percentage-based commissions. And a lot of times, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It really depends. But you got to I think that when we first get into the music industry, we have only one kind of idea of what does a team look like. And it's like you get your manager, you get your publisher, you get your business manager, you get your boom, and everybody does this, and you take you're like giving away 45% of your money, like, and all those other things. Now, in some cases, it's totally worth it. It just depends on what your situation is. And I always like to talk about that's not the only reason.
Right.
That's not the only way. Eventually you get to, afford to be like, okay, I'm going to put this thing on salary, but I'll continue to pay this commission and percentage based. Like, I started to get really creative with how is I gonna maintain that thing and how do I make it like work for me in my particular situation, because it could look like anything.
That's interesting too, because you're thinking about it in like a creative, holistic way where you can not only can you make it work better for you, but you're sort of breaking the mold for the people who would fill those slots for you.
Wow.
And so you're able to offer people something different than what else is going on around them, and they can hopefully that triggers some like way for them to work differently and be more creative or be more like, okay, Tayla's taking care of me, so I can do this differently than people expect.
Tayla's a big ecosystem person. I feel like of everything I've known about you for weirdly the brief time we've gotten very close in a short period, but like in my entire time of knowing you, you care about the ecosystem, whether that's literally, environmentally, or your publishing company, or your farm, or everything is about a balanced ecosystem, and I really look up to that. It's so much work. When I think about the things you have your hands in, it makes me feel tired thinking about it sometimes because you're so interested in the like. But what made that? But what made that? But then what happened there that led to that? And how can we change that? That would change this, and that. I just think that's really an interesting way to live. And I'm really thankful that you're as young as you are, because it's going to take time to make all of these things right. But it's really interesting. Like you as a publisher, what does that look like when the things you've learned from the deals you've had? What are your deals that you're now? What happened that led to, you know what I mean? Like everything changes everything. Like, what do your deals look like? The ones that you're signing people?
First of all, I kind of have I've managed myself throughout my career. So I'm like, okay, when I talk to my writers and my producers, whether I publish them or whether I manage them, sometimes I make more sense as a publisher versus a manager. Sometimes I don't make sense as the publisher, but I know I can add value. And sometimes it just, here's some free advice, right? Whatever, if I can add to the thing, then let's do it. If not, and sometimes it doesn't have to be official, but me as a publisher, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put on my management hat for a second, and I'm going to take, even if I don't manage you, take what you know that you can earn. Like certain things
Yes.
like that. I'm going to tell you what people wouldn't have told me, because not only do you want to have successful writers, you know, that come from that, but you want them to be happy. For me, I want them to be smarter, because one day they might become a publisher.
Right.
They might become a manager. And this whole thing is to kind of lead by example of, well, what could publishing or a publisher look like?
Yes.
My deals are super flexible, and it depends on, like, I'm able to say, like, okay, if I want to take these people over to Warner, and then we are within those things, you know. And if you are, like, I have a lot of Swedish acts, and some of them are like, oh, I want to be on, some of them decided, I want to be on U.S., you know, Warner Chapel, because they cut bigger checks. And then some of them are like, no, I want to do Sweden, you know, Warner Chapel office, or not at all, or we do some things that we admin through them. I really wanted to be flexible, because I get so tired of people being like, well, we can't do that, because I got to ask somebody who has to ask somebody who has to ask somebody, and they said no. And so I'm a huge fan of, like, ownership because of that, because I want to be able to make deals that lead by example, and to say, okay, well, maybe maybe their idea of success isn't a #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Yeah. What does your deal need to look like? We have a producer who is mainly in scoring, like TV and film, and a thing for her was to make sure that those were carved out,
right,
you know, of whatever deal. I'm like, cool, great, let's make sure that happens. There isn't a thing that I have to stay in. So, and I really like to just prove that by example of, you can have deals that look different if we have smaller publishing companies, and that could look like collaborating with bigger publishing companies, of course, the main three. But yeah, like they're very flexible, and I've always been a very flexible like person when it comes to that. But it always starts with a conversation of, okay, what does happiness look like to you? Where are you living? Like, my Brazilian artist doesn't need the same type of thing that somebody who's living in LA, as far as like the worries about prices of rent or the price of things. So then we can make up for it in these other places. Maybe you have more ownership in your situation, or maybe you do need more of the money, and maybe you have these family situations happening, or whatever it is. But I'll just like to start the conversation of, what is it that you need to be able to be consistently showing up emotionally for this job?
So much like your job.
I know. This is so resonating so much. I love the phrase deals that lead by example too. I think that's cutting edge. I think we need more of that out here for sure. And I think your reference to my world is, I think too many times institutions or people who think they've got it figured out, advisors included, publishers, here's the way it has to be, here's the way it has to be, here's the way it has to be. And the reality is, we're all individuals. Every single person is so different. And I think you seem to come at it with an attitude of, let's find out where you are first. And that, I resonate with that so much. I mean, that is the cornerstone of how I try to approach people.
I mean, it's why
I don't know where you are.
Yeah.
It's why I don't study who comes into the podcast.
Exactly.
Because I just want to be curious, like exercise that curious muscle.
That's the word.
Yeah.
That is the word.
It also is a kind of purely, in a way, like just a good business play. I mean, it's a long game. It's more long gamey, but when you have this one size fits all, you say, I'm done thinking about this. This is the deal, or this is a structure. Show up for it. Meet these goals, and we'll be fine. But that, I would think people cycle through that. They either meet those goals or they fall off. But that inflexibility, it's like it's short term. Like, the potential for that is pretty limited. At scale, it's probably like works for these much bigger, entities. But for someone who, like you, who is a human and investing in individual people, it's a way better play and builds loyalty. It builds, it allows for creativity and flexibility. Like, that's a long game play.
Absolutely. Publishing in general is such a long time. It takes so many years to break a writer or a producer. And then then you have the hard thing of it's not really worth it if it's not a part of the long game.
Mm.
It's not worth it
Right.
to be successful in this for 3 to 5 years because you have to give up so much. You have to give up so much that it's not worth it unless you are leaving something behind that is gonna matter, you know? And I think that even a lot of times, like recently, people are kind of like, my generation is like, we don't want to sign to a publishing guy, or we don't want to go to a major, or we don't want like that concept. I don't even think like 20 years ago, people were like, well, we don't want to do that because you look like the big bad wolf right now, right? It's so interesting how these things change and how actually building a culture around whatever your business is of just something that is unique, that eventually the majors will catch up. Like I used to talk about a lot of like mental health and you do these mental health camps or whatever. And I was talking about this 10 years ago. And then 5-7 years ago, I started to do the camps. Now, every publishing company, they're doing a kind of mental health like kind of thing. They're talking about it. They've started literally whole sections of these companies that now are focused on just mental health things. And that took not just me, like, but numerous people saying this is the new normal.
Important.
This is important. This is something that is now going to attract more people to you because you're actually doing something different. What used to would seem like a waste of money. And you're so right. Big companies, big publishers, they can afford to say, this person didn't make it back. This is going to be a tax write-off. Like, this is going to be, we're going to call it a loss and boom, boom, boom. It's fine.
Right.
It's fine. Like, because actually, when you think about major labels and publishers, what percentage is actually making the money back? What percentage of those people are making it back? Yeah. You know, other than that, they're like, we got Gladys Knight and the Pip stuff. He's still making money. We don't care about little Timmy Bobby. That, you know, Timmy Bobby, you know what I'm saying? He's a little bit close to it, but, you know, he might not ever make it. It's very, very different.
Well,
approach.
What you're leaving behind thing, the piece of like changing the culture is so cool because to me, like you're saying, the odds of succeeding in this business are pretty slim. So then what are you doing for these people if they don't make it? You're either leaving them with a sour taste in their mouth and a grudge. And also, by the way, you know, Tayla Parx is a bitch. Like you're leaving them with that, or you're not. Yeah. Like, because we say this all the time. This job is fun to pursue even if it doesn't work. Yes. Like if you put all your eggs in this basket, you spend 10 years trying to write songs for a living, you will not go, oh, I regret that. Yeah. Unless some asshole was awful to you. That's the only way that you'd regret the time because there's nothing unpleasant about sitting around with your friends and stirring up your feelings and writing a song. Like that's like the best fucking thing ever. There's this kid on my son's baseball team who took a songwriting. He's 11. He took a songwriting class. I'm not saying it's because he met me and he knows that I write songs, but maybe. And I was talking to him. I was like, was it fun? Did you enjoy? I saw him yesterday. I was like, did you enjoy? He was like, yeah, it was really cool. I was talking to his dad and I was like, there is no world where that won't serve him, even if he doesn't end up doing songwriting at all. Just sitting down and going like, yeah, how does that make you feel? Yes. Like, well, how is that not serving the human?
To express that.
So to circle back, it's like having a publisher or someone or manager or someone who's handling you with kid gloves and saying like, hey, let's make this deal work best for you. Like, God, it's just, you're kind of removing the sting if it doesn't work. Yeah. Because it might not.
Let's make it enjoyable. Yeah. While you're here, let's try to make it
It's beautiful.
work.
I mean, to me, that's the move. Like, you're obviously a superstar songwriter, and I know there's a lot of people who pivot immediately into publishing. Like, oh, I have some hits, I got some cash, I can
Which
pay
is not
you.
the best idea. I want everybody to
Can
know
we
that
talk
I
about
don't
that?
think
Can we talk
that
about
every
it?
creative should be a business person when it comes to, these are people's lives in your hands.
Can we talk can we go like pretty full tilt on that? Because I have strong opinions about that as well. Like,
yes.
Well, and I think I want to add one little piece of color in here too, is that I think to be a nimble entity in a large institution-bound industry, I'm speaking for financial advising and publishing, it's a difficult balance to scale and to stay creative Like, I think that, to me, that's something I talk about with the team here all the time. Is like, and we, at the same time, you have to compete with Goldman Sachs and be relational and do what's right the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a delicate balance. And I'd love to hear how you've scaled yourself. Because I always say,
Great question.
if a songwriter is becoming a publisher, they're just scaling themselves. They're creating other opportunities as a bigger entity because they can mentor, can teach, can
And some would call
avoid
it
pitfalls.
scaling, and some would call it a Ponzi scheme if
Right.
you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
So, like, in a way, like, let's talk about it, because to me,
Yeah,
it's a perfect illustration of breaking down that this is not a simple decision. This is not a whimsical decision. I have,
and it's not just a money decision.
no,
Yes.
it's like,
To
I
your
don't give a
point
shit
about
if you've got,
having
Takes a minute.
yeah.
their careers in your
Yeah.
hands. Like, it's not a money
I think
decision.
most songwriters do this. They go, okay, I'm going to use actual terms just in case. Let's just say they sold a catalog sale. They've got 5 million. I'm just being, I'm being whatever. They got 5 million. This is the first time they've ever had that much money, and they're just looking at it. And they're like, you know how much it costs to, like, pay what I got in a draw? Like, what my draw, like, advances here are called draws, like $40,000 a year. I could spare that.
For 4 years?
I could spare
go
that
higher.
for 4 years. They're thinking about it. They're looking at a number and just doing a little bit of math and thinking that could make me X, Like, what if that person did what I did? And then I swear the temptation to do that is so ill-advised. I don't think it should be about how much you have and how much you can spare to see it, like buying a lottery ticket called a person and hoping that it works. Because it works, you end up making money off them that you probably don't deserve, or it doesn't work, they're mad at you and you're mad at them. Like,
and
it's
also,
not.
when you had the success, we talked about how many years it takes to break somebody. We're in a new industry. By the time that person is broken, there's 100,000 more songs coming out a day.
Right.
There's,
Wow.
maybe if you're lucky, the MLC has helped to update a law or two in that time. Maybe if you're lucky, we're making a few more cents on the record. But it's a completely different industry by the time. So you can't expect, that's like literally David Foster being like, Tayla Parx might make as much. I will never make, I will always love you type of money off of one song. It's statistically impossible in this industry.
You painted the pretty version.
Yes.
Like, oh, we make a couple more cents. If Spotify keeps Spotifying, you might make half in a year.
Yes.
If they keep figuring out bundly plans and weird things that cut our income up more and more and more, you might be making less. I mean, it's kind of like what Ryan Hurd said we had Ryan Hurd on, and he was talking about touring and how challenging it is to tour, which you also understand. He was talking about diesel went up to like $7 a gallon or some crap, and he just had to eat that.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same in this business. You don't know what's going to happen. So my like cautionary tale is, please do not look at your catalog sale dollars and think, oh, I could try to make this on that by signing a person.
Yeah.
It needs to be passion for publishing.
Yes.
And if you don't even know what that means, then please don't do it.
Yes.
If you don't know what publishing really is, then please don't do it.
That's the thing.
Your hypothetical songwriter could take that same money and just do an admin deal, to your point earlier, and live lean and make a bunch more money.
Yeah, because
And
if you're
have a
not
real
learning it
simple
while
life.
you're broke, you're not going to know it when you make that first
Well said.
million. You know what I'm saying? You better learn it while you're figuring it out, because you're going to make the money and you're going to lose it. You're going to fucking, like, it's what happens. But hopefully you learn the lesson with $50,000 and not $5 million.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but
so I'm curious, like, what pivoted you to even want to do this? Because if I know you at all, which I feel like I do, it wasn't the thing I'm describing. It was something passionate. It was something exciting.
Yeah.
Like, what did that look like? And at what point in your career did you even decide to start signing writers and managing and all of these things?
Well, I was accidentally doing it like with myself. Like I was just like, oh, I can do like this little thing and this thing. And then when other managers and artists started coming to me for advice, and other publishers and some very big like managers and stuff, they were like, oh, well, how did you do this, or how did you do that? Or when we would just talk and come up with creative solutions that might be the next thing, like the business. Like when I grew up and when I was in school, I wanted to do entertainment law, and something about that excited me. I love a fact. I love getting down to the business. I love finding that not everything is so black and white. I love seeing, like, weighing out, everything, and being my own devil's advocate and all those other things, and really seeing everything from whatever lens it needs to be seen in. But the music business really, really excites me. And I think mainly because I'm like, why are we complaining about the same things 50 years later? Somebody hasn't gotten creative in this thing or cared enough for this to be a thing that changes, right? And usually I'm like the type of person that's like, I don't want to be like, can we please change this? I'm like, I'm going to build it. It's going to work. And if it doesn't work, somebody else is going to take whatever foundation I lay and make it even better, and they're going to make it work. Wow. But I got to prove a point here. And everything in my life always goes back to, you can do this. We can do this better. We can do this more fair. We can do this, like, it's that ecosystem. It literally is why TaylorMade Inc., was born. Because I was like, okay, I can do publishing this way and management this way, and it can look different. I really love what, like, Taylor Swift does with her team. And she's like, oh, now you see Olivia Rodrigo doing it. Of like, I'm going to place the people around me that make the most sense to make this thing go. Like I was saying 7-8 years ago, management is going to change drastically. And then you started having all of these management companies combined together in one, and then that was a change. But it was literally, everything is like, I'm going to prove this fucking point. And it's going to be the new way that people do it. But I can only do that if I have control of that company. Not doing it alone, but having enough control to be able to make these very different type of decisions that aren't focused on just making money. And I think that's also another thing. Like a lot of times you sign to a publisher, you sign to somebody, and it's like their only way of making money is off of you. And it's like, my publishing is fine. Like, I don't need your publishing. I don't need to steal from you. I don't need to take advantage of you for it to be successful. And I think that when we come to that, and that thing of like, my thing, I'm here to prove a point. And that's how it kind of started. And so I think that that's always like the curiosity. What you mentioned is like, I'm curious, can this be done and scalable in a way? Because I think a lot of times when people are doing something that is like out of the good of their heart, they think money, ill, gross, it's yucky. But I understand that it takes money to be able to create these worlds. Yes. So how do we have responsible entrepreneurship? How do we have, healthy entrepreneurship? How do we have healthy development? Yeah. Because I truly believe that it's possible.
That's so freaking cool. It makes me so excited because, it really makes me excited. And I just hope you continue to keep doing, which I know there's no stopping you. So I don't need to wish that in the least. That's an amazing thing to hear. It's an amazing thing to hear. So exciting.
God.
Yeah. How do you foresee the plight of the songwriter going? Like, I know something that I've talked to you at length about where to demand, my value and all those stuff. And I've said many times, I've probably said it to you, I'm like, I'm no Tayla Parx. I'm not as brave as Tayla Parx. And that bitch will do some shit. And I admire it, but I'm also like, it takes so much bravery to be willing. Okay, let me break this down. Songwriters are the first people to just get like fired, essentially. They're the first people to just disappear from acts. Managers, if you ask for too much, they'll just pretend you're unavailable. The artist has no idea that you haven't been invited, and then all of a sudden you're replaced, and then the artist has mentally replaced you without having There was no conversation, and it's literally because you asked for too much.
And you're like asking for $1,500.
Yeah.
It's like, damn,
Yeah,
I can't get $1,500 after working with your ass for 7 months for free?
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's really bad right now.
By the way,
I
from
know.
just putting in perspective what asking for too much is sometimes, it could be literally $500, $1,500 because you're asking for anything.
Yes, anything.
Is the thing.
So to start from the very beginning, as you just mentioned, showing up to be a songwriter, to show up is to show up for free.
Mm-hmm.
To be a songwriter means you get a recording, you've handed that over for free. To get it released, you've said you've approved it for free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for it to be, you know, put out and promoted, all the promotional materials, all the T-shirts with your words on them, it's all for free. Goodbye money. And someone else is making money on all that, all throughout that process. And the other people who make the music are making money on that all throughout the process. The engineers, the producers, the
mixing
mastering people. That's maybe the biggest mystery for me, but I'll save that for another day. The fact that those people have points and that we don't is insane. But my point is this. We do this thing on the lottery ticket hope that we win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we win, everyone else has won already, but then they win again with us, round 2 of winning.
Yeah.
But that's why we do it. And yes, you can be very successful on that one lottery ticket. But I think in the end, people like Tayla, people like myself, it's not fair. Just inherently, it's not fair. And then it is making a completely unsustainable ecosystem.
I think it's
for the next
point.
generation.
That's the biggest risk.
That is what I think truly what they want. They want to make it unsustainable, because if you have people who are successful for 7 years and then they start to ask for what's fair, they're like, hurry up and replace them.
Yeah.
Because then you might start creating a new normal. If you have people around that are around long enough to start understanding their value, throw them away and get the person who's willing to do it for free. I don't think that they are in the business of making it sustainable, which is why you don't really see people 30-year careers, 40-year careers. Like, that's very, very, very rare. And I think it's for a reason. Because it's not sustainable.
Well, then what do we do? Because, like, I do feel like I have a manager who I love, and we've had on the podcast, we've talked at length about walking softly, being kind, not being a dick about it, but trying to, be defined. And here's where to start. Asking, like Ray has said this 100 times, the very simplest thing you could do is just pay for the people to get there. Covering costs to arrive.
Absolutely.
Seems small. Ray says that, my team says that. That's where we always start. It's like at the very least, if we're on project 4,
yes,
and you guys have all made this money already, at the very least, that's our step 1. Step 2, what is step 2? Like, and what is step 3? And where is this going? What do you think? Like,
those
what
steps look different. Those steps look different because sometimes you're like with a superstar artist who can afford to do these other things, and I'm very careful with saying charge people just because they're a big star and they can afford it, because I actually hate that, because it's, you got to be very careful with that. Absolutely. Because you also take advantage of people like that, and that's not really fair either.
Agreed.
However, something as simple as, are you going to pay for the food when you get there? Like, are you having your opportunity to have your ride taken care of, your Uber, whatever it is, because it's cost you to show up here for free. And then the next thing is, like, okay, we get into the day rate conversations. And I've had people who have been like, once they started having to pay me the day rate, they got my ass up out of there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you can't afford it. That's fine. Now, we can have a conversation about it, and I can make sure that this day rate can make sense for you. But I would much rather you tell me that you do not think that I'm worth paying, so I know whether I want to show up to this motherfucker or not. You know what I mean?
Let's be clear what a day rate looks like. It's a producer fee, but in a different outfit. Like, a producer fee is something. Now, the producer gets paid that fee if the song comes out most of the time. Doesn't get paid unless it comes out.
Yes.
How do we equalize ourselves as songwriters? Like, does a day rate make sense? Should we be asking for a fee?
Or you ask for a fee. I've had all of these situations. Sometimes it's a day rate. If I'm like, this artist, I don't know if their album will ever come out. You know, I'm not even gonna say any names, but it's like, will she even promote the album?
Yeah, exactly.
Will she even? If I've done 50 different songs for you, and I know that you're just all over the place, let's just figure out the day rate, and I'm definitely gonna ask for that point. And then depending on, I ask for points if I have if I'm a part of this sound, if I am a part of getting this across the finish line, if I know that this project wouldn't have been this project without me being involved, it should be, you should get paid for that on the back end. So
the back end, let's talk about it just in case there's someone listening that doesn't really understand. So the fee is dollars to show up. The point is a futures. It's hoping if everybody wins, I get to win along with that. Yeah. Currently, it is not standard for songwriters to receive points, which means that the label, the artist, the producer, the engineer, the mixing, the mastering, the managers, they all share in this pot later that the songwriters are for some reason excluded from. Now, they'll tell you full face, like full throttle to your face, why you want a point? Point's not worth anything. Why would you want that? But then they won't give it to you, so it doesn't make any sense because you're like, well, if you want it so bad.
Exactly.
So explain it. But it's an interesting distinction too, the thing you just said about if a writer has a really direct influence on the sound of the record, is that the moment that they demand a point? At what point do they demand the point? Before they do the work? After do they do their work?
It's so touchy, and that's a real tough one, because it's like, now look, because the day rate is like, okay, you either just got to pay me this just to show up, right? That's a particular thing. And then my producer fee will come in if that song is placed, of understanding that this is what you can make it recoupable, you can make it however it needs to be, but it's gonna come one way or another. There's some times though I don't do a songwriter fee, or I don't do a producer fee, or a day rate or a producer fee. Some I'll just do a point. It's so, you got to get really creative with it, because there's a lot of different ways to make money off of a record. It used to be vocal production for me. Like when I was coming in and I was 20, and that's why I'm like, well, y'all done messed up. Y'all was paying me $5,000-$6,000 to vocal produce at 20 years old. And that's when, Epic was doing a thing. And I'm like, so I know y'all got it. And now you want to just do, have this one person. It's so interesting, but it can look a lot of different ways, and there isn't at this point in your career you do this, at this point in your career you do that, because honestly, like, we remember like when producers were getting like $50,000, $100,000 for a beat, which doesn't happen anymore. But then when you start breaking down the history of why that is the case, or why producers get also songwriting credit, or why these things, then you can, when it comes time for you to say, this is why I deserve a piece of this, you got to know the history of the business and like why, and make sure that you're talking, this is where the facts come in
and you can't
to play.
Be a tool about it. I feel like there is a professional way to say it. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't think that I deserve a point on every song I've ever written. But when I'm full throttle, 2 feet into a project, I'm still fighting for them. Yes. I'm still fighting for them, but I deserve them. Yes. And I know it because of that history. Yes. I know what I deserve. Vocal production is a great example. If you're there for the entire production of of a song, you never left the room. Yeah. And you've written parts and you have ideas and you're in that cookery and you're just doing the whole thing. That should be worth something. Now, people that walk in, we wrote the song. I'll see you guys. You guys keep working on it. Send me the bounce.
And that's what I'll do if I know I'm not getting paid. If I know that this team is not going to want to pay me for vocal production, I'm not putting a fucking 3-part harmony on there. Right. Figure it out. Figure it out. You would have got it done in 20 minutes with me. But if you want to spend more on studio time, be my guest, pay
and
an
then
extra
there's
day.
The creative piece. There's the fact that there's only one of you, and your ideas are going to be specific to you. And if you're not there, the ideas will be there, but they'll be different. Like, I feel like those are such touchy subjects.
I have a proposed solution to like, let's just
Kevin.
let's just fix
the
this
industry
right
now.
now.
Solving this
Let's
problem
go,
in
Kevin.
one phrase.
Hang tight, guys. I
love this.
can we I feel like we should have standardized low fees for all of these things, standardized. So everyone gets the same amount of money that's built into every single budget, right? We also create aptitude tests for those specializations. You can earn them like badges on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And you, as the entity, as the individual, sole proprietor, whatever, can opt out of those. And for any given project, you can say, I'm not going to take a vocal production fee for this one, if that helps sweeten the pot for you. And it creates a more competitive atmosphere. Also, it creates a standardized, like, this is going to cost us this much as a venture for the
like a minimum wage.
It's a budget
This
item.
is
We
the
got a
minimum.
minimum wage.
Like SAG-AFTRA. It's a kind of it's giving SAG-AFTRA vibes.
Right. And
That's interesting.
Opt in or opt out, but the playing field is the same. If you want to make some back-endy kind of, deals for people who are really excel and are special, great, do that. But like, take the weirdness out of the room, out of the discussion beforehand, so that people are not.
If there was a button that I could
I'm
press.
kind of joking.
Oh, no,
like,
but honestly, I'm not
No.
even joking. If there was a button that just made everything standardized, I feel like it'd be a lot easier. The problem is that there is nuance. For me, when record labels decide that songwriters should have a master share portion, the same way they have a artist share portion, that portion gets, the portion of that gets paid out to the publisher. As soon as that's bumped up to earmark points for songwriters, this conversation changes entirely. Because I don't think that necessarily means that Tayla shouldn't have her vocal production point as well. She'd be getting her songwriter share, and then she'd be like, well, you know what, I kind of made that a vibe, and then her manager would argue for that extra. That to me is like where it's going. Like we'll get to a point where songwriters are a part of the back end of a recording, not just a royalty, but the recording. That to me is built for the system we live in, where songs are consumed on Spotify. That is the fairest thing to do. But until then, it's really up to our managers to just fight for stuff. And I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've had this too, where people just like, yeah, we can't do that. Sorry. And
that's
then,
not how it goes.
That's not how they do it.
This is just the way that it works.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to jump on this fucking table and then jump out of the window if I hear that this is just how it goes and this is just how it works. Because at one point, this wasn't just how it worked. At one point, that was not the case. At one point, you didn't have producers on songwriting credits. You didn't have people being like, there were 7 people who wrote this. It's like, actually, no, there was 2 people who wrote this. And because of this particular law and because of this particular time in music where you actually did have writers, there's so many things that they're saying is the new normal that is not. And I've started to just be like, well, what's the law? What's the law? Because you telling me about whatever this new normal is. I want to know, can you be sued for this? That's it. Because and there's some laws that work against you, and you got to understand that too. But I'm just lately, I've really just started to get into the nitty gritty of, are you legally allowed to do this? And if you are, then what do I need to do to either speak up about this, to either try to challenge it? Because I've gotten like songwriting fees from labels from one A&R, and then the next person tell me, well, we don't do that here. I'm like, well, you've done it before 4 other times. This particular label, under the same boss, under the same everything. So how is it that you get to pick and to choose when to do something? And that, for me, the inconsistency is what really, really blows me. Because it's like, because if I find one little thing, and definitely if you give me an inch, I'm taking 3,000 miles. Because I know that if I don't, we're gonna have I'm already concerned for writers and producers in this day and age. I'm already concerned for it. And we've been conditioned.
We have to be willing to fall on the sword.
We've got to.
And to me, this brings up the subject of what is our leverage. And to me, it's approval.
Yeah.
It's the only thing we have. We can literally just be like, cool, then I don't approve. And that's where, and by that I mean, don't use my song.
Yes.
Don't use my stems. Don't use my vocal production.
Yes.
And nobody wants to be that asshole.
Yes,
No one
because
wants
you
to
seem
be
like an asshole for saying that. But now, then you got to think about, though, for me as a person, going back to what am I leaving behind? Now, you can do this in a nice way. Like, and no, not everybody's going to be like, oh, yippee, she fought for something right. Like, people are going to be, you're going to piss some people off,
Totally.
you know? And
Yeah.
you can do it in a respectful way. But, you know, I don't want to be a part of the whole thing of like, I made a lot of money. Let's get on.
Me neither.
You know, I don't want to be that. And then also I don't want to be terrified that I'm going to be kicked out of the cool circle and forced to try to be relevant my whole life either, because
Those are
that's
the
not
two
happiness
polars.
either.
You
Yeah.
literally just described the polars. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be, and I feel the same way. And I think it comes down to just like picking your battles and making sure you're not.
Exactly.
I remember Jay Cash said something to me that I don't even know if I wholly agree with, but I thought the point was kind of interesting. He was just like, I don't remember what the numbers were, but he was just like, 40-60, 40-60. Like,
Yeah.
fight for it 60% of the time, let it go 40%
Yes.
of the time. And I don't think that's unwise advice.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know what your numbers are.
Yeah.
That's up to you. But having like the guy that's just constantly fighting,
Yeah.
and you will just get kicked off of
Yes.
projects.
You will.
Yes, you absolutely will.
And so it really comes down to, like you said, what's the law? And
Mhm.
in my like bleeding heart wants to be like, what's right though?
Yeah.
And I don't think that works.
Mhm.
I don't think asking greedy people what the right thing to do
They
is
don't give a
going to get
damn.
you anywhere. So, I mean, in my ideal utopia land, it does, because I feel like everyone's great, but not everyone is. I mean, there's just a lot of
No.
greed out there. So it's really about just going like, pick your battles,
Yeah.
die on a couple hills. And when you get to Tayla level, die on a few more.
Die on a few more.
So that the next generation doesn't end up just unable to make any money.
Yeah.
Period.
Because if you have people like, nothing bothers me more. There's writers that have way more hits than I do who do not fight for this stuff.
Right.
They don't. They quite literally don't care. And it's like, you can't expect everybody to be like, nobody's trying to be like, I'm the Gandhi of songwriting. Like, we're not trying to do that. None of us are trying to pretend like we're not in the music business. But there's some time where it's just like, so. Wow, you're not going to add, you're just going to take from this industry. You're not going to add anything but a fucking song, which is very powerful, right? But if you are leading by example, and if people are doing business the way that you do it, that means that there will be no business.
It's going to narrow
30
to
years.
nothing.
To
Yeah,
nothing.
It's going to just
To
get
nothing.
more and more
and you
narrow.
will be irrelevant. Every songwriter will be irrelevant one day.
Absolutely.
Because
Yes.
it has to do with culture. It has to do with all these other things. There will come a time in my life where I'm like, I remember, thank you, next. and you know what I'm saying? And they'll be like, okay, let's get you to bed, grandma. There will come a time where I don't know the hot young Lil. I don't know what's going on. And that, there's a reason why you have the Max Martins and the all of them, and they sign people and they collaborate with people, because there will always be a day where you aren't the king of the
Right.
queen of the castle. That is how the music industry works.
And
Period.
I really hope that that I'm cool with that.
You have to be.
I work every day to make sure that I'm cool with that. The idea that it is not me
Yep.
has to be okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm just like that old motherfucker just trying to hold on to my laurels and get
Yes.
more trophies and I need more
Yes.
number ones. It's so embarrassing when you get to a certain point in your career where you have influenced everything
Mhm.
and you will not let go. To me, it's sort of an embarrassing old person thing to do. It's
Mhm.
like dyeing your hair dark brown when you
Yeah.
just gray as fuck,
Yes.
motherfucker.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
let it happen. Just let it
Yeah.
be.
I
Like,
agree.
do you know what I'm
I
saying?
agree.
Do you know what
I'm
I'm
with you.
saying? There is a point where you just have to be okay with getting older. I mean, that sounds like so, like,
It's human condition is what you're describing.
Well,
it's
for
weird
sure.
because
It's like
you're right.
When you combine
physically,
yes.
professionally, career, as a guy that helps people transition into those phases, it is so hard. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, people get ready. Going from being the stuff to not being the stuff is the one of the hardest things you're going to do.
Absolutely,
People already
but
trying to call me the OG. I'm like,
No, but-
I just turned 30.
I just got here.
What the hell?
I'm
Like,
24, I think.
Leave me alone. Honestly, though, the truth, though, is that I feel like this era is more interested in mental health.
Yes.
And so I don't think it's going to be as hard.
It's
I'm not
push
saying
in.
it's not going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard.
Mhm.
But I'm excited to be like, I feel like I'm already proving something to myself by being okay with being older, period. Like, I think that that's like a gift
Yeah.
you can give yourself, or
Yeah.
you can just, fight it tooth and nail, and then you're just a million. You
Yeah.
look 20, and you're still trying to get another trophy, and it doesn't mean anything. You got a
Yeah.
rack of trophies, buddy.
Which,
Like, let it be.
To your point, if you took that energy and just redirected, you're not that
Yeah.
old, but you're
Yeah.
already doing it.
Yeah.
You're already like engaging songwriters where they need to be, where you think you're trying to help mentor. There's wisdom in y'all
Yeah.
I hope.
that
I
needs to
think
be
so.
shared. And the more you share that, instead of gripping for the laurel,
Yeah.
share the wisdom and watch those things bloom. I think that, to me, as we get older, that is where
Yeah.
actual joy comes from, instead
Totally
of
agree.
just gripping something that's getting more and more brittle every day, like just
Yeah.
starting to crumble.
And I want to be clear, it's not even just an age thing. It's the period for how long you are relevant. That could be,
wow. There you go.
you could be,
Yes.
that could be from your 30s to your 50s. That could be from 12 to, in my case, I started at, to get those first, kind of big names, or in like 20 or something like that. And so the period of my relevancy, after you get there for like 10 plus years, it's like, okay, we're going to see if you make it into this next 10 years,
Whoa.
right? And so that could be at any age, but I always picture it like this. I don't want to be that person that, like, you can tell when they were in their heyday when you walk into their home. And it's like, they kept everything just the same because it reminds them of that time. So if you were like popping in the 80s, right? And it's like, man, you still have the same kind of decor. Like when you're walking into this time capsule. And I'm just like, I don't want to be... You're right. It's the human condition. It's like we all want to feel relevant. We all want to feel needed. But I just try to remind myself every day, one day you will be irrelevant. And whatever you're going to do now, and not irrelevant in the way of nobody will ever remember you, because if you're doing it right, there will always be something that somebody will bring up or say, oh, you know what? I think a long time ago, like maybe this person was a part of the, for me, it's like doing the Black Music Collective, or I was a part of putting together the Songwriter of the Year award with the Grammys. And that is something that will last long after I'm gone. If you're doing it right, hopefully you're doing those things, because the popularity contest of the music industry, that is what everybody gets sucked into. And that's just that relevancy thing, which is super, super interesting and scary, but necessary. I'd rather just get it out of the way now.
I think I'm the same way. I use these practices to help calm myself down about how fucking important I am. I'm not that fucking important. But I tell you what, I think stuff like this, I told someone recently who is a very influential person in the music industry, but is someone who like has had hits, but he's more just, and he has a monstrous influence on the music industry. I told him, I was like, your songs will be remembered or not. Probably not, because all of our songs eventually just end up in a Walgreens. That's the facts. It's like, that's where they go to die.
Yep.
Just buying Tylenol.
Boom.
That's it. But the work that this person is doing to uplift songwriters, to make sure songwriters are paid, to make sure that people know that we exist, that's how you end up with, an avenue
to pivot.
That's how you end up getting remembered properly. Like, and I don't think the people who were just like kept racking up the trophies end up with streets named after them. They just end up with the trophies.
Yep.
So pivoting is being remembered. Pivoting is the way to be remembered, like quite literally forever.
T.
You know what I'm saying?
T, because that is exactly it.
Pivot. That's the message, I think, of this like, this was such a great episode of just like, God, songwriting is the best, but you can actually like, I don't know, you can really, really affect culture by helping the next generation rather than just trying to be in the generation continually and stay in the generation and stay young
It happens
forever.
with writers. It happens with artists. It happens with them. Like, we see some of our favorites, most iconic artists ruin their legacy just by the fact that it's like, whoa, you still have however many, diamond ring or whatever, and you're worried about being Sabrina Carpenter. And that is insane. That's insane because there would be no this without everything that you've done.
Yeah.
And so it's
like Paul Newman. Just make some salad dressing. Pivot.
Come on, now.
You know what I mean?
Come on.
Just like pivot to something else. Anyway,
I like his Fig Newmans myself.
So good. And Robert Redford too.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he was like, I'm hot, I'm gorgeous, 70s, let's go. And then he was like, I'm gonna do something amazing with Earth. Like, I don't know. There's just so much to it.
Absolutely.
There's
And
so much
songwriters,
to.
you would think that songwriters and creatives, period, would understand that even more, that because we're invisibly helping people throughout their lives, like writing these songs, right? It is so much bigger than us in the first place. And so you would think that that would be something that we focus on, but it's really hard because we're in the music business and this industry is so hard to stay grounded, but then also ask for what you deserve. And then also there's such a tiny, tiny percentage of people who will actually make it. And then there's so many things that you got to balance out. And I think that just having other things outside of music, having your belief system, whatever that is, because that's allowed to change. Like, I can't say, like, when I definitely have always been like, there's something bigger than this than me. Like, I've always been that thing because I've always been like, and why, and why, and why, and why. I'm that person. But like, when it changed, like, it clicked in my mind that, like, oh, this is going to be bigger than just your words helping somebody through their hard day, right? This could be, 20 years from now, they're being like, yo, these things that were non-existent before are the new normal because of this group of people or the actions of these people. And so hopefully, we're all doing what we got to do. So I'm not so concerned about the future of songwriters because it's such an important job.
Yes.
It is such an important job. And if we don't start uplifting the human songwriters, we're gonna have shitty music.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the happiest people I know, now that y'all have been talking about pivoting for a minute here, that I was just reflecting back on the people that I work with. The happiest people I know have pivoted in some way. Even if it doesn't have to be like go make salad dress. It doesn't have to be that dramatic, but it can be go from being a writer to being a publisher to being a mentor. It can be go from a writer to teaching at a school. Yeah. It can be
it could be on boards,
incremental.
All these boards, NSAI boards and the Grammy boards.
They're fulfilled.
They're helping move the needle for the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Tayla, you are a treasure. I really mean it. You are, just keep doing everything you're doing.
Yes, please.
And thank you.
They're like, she's a witch. Get her out of here.
No.
I mean, you really are.
We
need more people like
the way
this.
you're thinking.
Truly.
Oh my goodness, it's
and
so
thanks
refreshing
for having me
exciting.
here
You're
and having this
wonderful.
conversation with you guys. For sure.
It's amazing.
And
Thank you.
It's a treat.
And for the love of God, if you're just listening to this right now, please go to YouTube and watch this, because this has to be our best sweater episode ever.
Yes.
Between Laura and Tayla. I mean, the coordination is
It's like
outrageous.
Look at us. Yeah, definitely watch it. For
and you said
sweaters
most
alone.
decorated songwriter we've perhaps ever had. The necklace is insane.
Yes,
It's-
true.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I hate to just be like so aesthetically focused.
Thank you.
Because
Like, get
this
ready
was
with
like
me.
life changing in other ways, but like, my God,
Yeah.
go watch the YouTube videos.
real.
Yes.
Um,
Make sure you tune in and smash that like button.
Smash the like button, fam.
Oh my God, I love it. Oh, thank you, Tayla.
Thank you.
So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Like, subscribe, all those stuff.
Thanks.
Bye.